How's it going, guys? Welcome back to Untitled Chapter. Today I'm going to be doing the worst Premier League players from every club in the 2021-2022 season. I know what you're thinking. The season's already over and I'm making the video now. I thought it was a really fun video, so let's get right into the video. So guys, before I start the video, I want to ask for one thing. Guys, please like, subscribe, comment. But let's start with Arsenal. With Arsenal, who was the worst player this season? He's a Portuguese left back and he goes by the name of Nuno Tavares. When he signed for Arsenal at the start of the season for 8 million, I thought he was going to be decent because most Portuguese players, when they get exposed to the Premier League, they do pretty well. But with Nuno Tavares, it hasn't been that. Like, he's been struggling, and I remember watching the Man United match where Arsenal actually looked pretty decent against us. But the one player where all Man United players were attacking through was the left back position through Nuno Tavares. And I feel like he's just a walking yellow card. He keeps on getting yellow cards, he keeps on fouling everyone. And he's just not a great season. I think he's been pretty average at best. I would say he's been like 3 out of 10 this season. So that's why Nuno Tavares is the worst Arsenal player this season. So guys, let's move on to Aston Villa. With Aston Villa as a Jamaican international, but it goes by the name of Leon Bailey. A 29 million signing for Aston Villa, and he's not been worth any of that 29 million. This season, I believe he's only got 1 goal, 2 assists in the league, and he's been struggling to break into Aston Villa this year. Like, Aston Villa are a quality side, and I thought Leon Bailey would be way more than he was. When he came from Bayer Leverkusen, if I'm not wrong, everyone thought, ooh, like he's built for the Premier League, he's fast, he's strong. But ever since then, he's been bad. Like, John McGinn's been better than him, Philip Coutinho's been better than him, Ollie Watkins been better than him, and he's just struggled to make into the team. So that's why Leon Bailey has been my flop of the season. So guys, let's move on to Brentford. And this was a tough one for a team which really overachieved and everyone did very well this season, but there was one big flop in my opinion for me, and he went by the name of Sergio Canos. Sergio Canos is a Spanish international who plays in the left wing position. But this season, he only had 5 contributions in 31 appearances. Yes, he didn't get the full 38 appearances, or he didn't play the cup games or another game. But as a left winger, you need to perform more. From the left wing position, only getting 5 contributions this season, where you had 31 appearances to actually prove yourself, and you didn't do that. I feel like Sergio Canos is going to be a player who played in the Premier League, but no one's ever going to think of him. And I feel like Brentford fans will probably be okay with him leaving, because like in the left wing position he hasn't achieved a lot, and with Brentford, a team who has actually overachieved, done so well with so many players who have like scored amount goals like Ivan Toney, Mbembo, Christian Eriksen, Sergio Canos wasn't one of the guys, and that's why he's my Brentford flop of the season. So let's move on to Brighton. Who was the flop of the season for me? It was one guy, and he goes by the name of Adam Lallana. I'm thinking, Adam Lallana, what? How could you? I feel like Adam Lallana has been a flop of the season for me for Brighton. Once again, Brighton, a team who gone in top 10 this season, has done so well. But Adam Lallana has only registered 24 appearances this season and only got 1 assist. So it clearly shows that he's a flop of the season. Yes, he plays in the centre mid, sometimes the cam position. And I thought when he left Liverpool, Brighton would be like a perfect team for him. He could actually establish himself and he could actually do well. But clearly it hasn't worked out. And that's why he's my flop of the season. So guys, let's move on to Burnley. With Burnley, who's been the flop of the season? He's a former Tottenham, Everton player, England international, and he goes by the name of Aaron Lennon. With 26 appearances, 2 goals and 1 assist, it wasn't looking good, bruv. For Aaron Lennon, when he signed for Burnley, I thought he was going to be something new for the team. He was going to help them revitalize and deviate from that like into the box ball, like just Sunday League style, just thump the ball up the field, and he was going to give them something new. Like, as a winger, he can pace it down, cut in, shoot. Like what he did for Tottenham and Everton, it clearly didn't carbon copy to Burnley. And I feel like if Burnley actually had a couple more players this season who performed for them, I feel like they could have actually stayed up. Leeds were pretty ass cheeks this season, and I feel like Aaron Lennon could have been that difference, but clearly didn't work out. I feel like Burnley got him at the latter end of his career, and he's not really helped them. So that's why he's been my Burnley flop of the season. So guys, let's move on to Chelsea. And everyone knows that one flop of the season, and his name is Romelu Lekaku. At the start of the season, he signed for a Chelsea record fee of 97.5 million. But what has he done ever since then? Let me tell you what he's done. He's got 8 goals in 26 appearances. He's already said the club he does will be Chelsea. He wants to go back to Inter Milan. He never wanted to come to Chelsea. He didn't help them out toward this season. Yes, he started the start of the season pretty well, but after that, he just struggled. Like, all the comments he made didn't allow him to play in the team, because Thomas Tuchel, any manager, any players were just saying, oh, I wanted to stay in Inter Milan, I was forced to come to Chelsea, I never loved Chelsea. Like Chelsea fans were actually ready for him. They actually rated him highly, and this is how he smacks them back in the face. I feel like Lekaku, even at Man United, yes, at Man United, yeah, he had glimpses of being better, but after that, he was pretty ass for the 3 years he was there. And with Chelsea, he's clearly shown his true colours. Like he had the potential to be a Premier League great. He wasn't Premier League great at Everton. But like when it comes to the big stages, he can't perform. And yes, he did well at Inter Milan, but this is the Premier League, so all new, different league, and you can see how he didn't perform well. And that's what Lekaku has been a flop of the season, and probably flop transfer of the century in my opinion. To spend 100 million and not to get nothing out of him, 8 goals, he can get out of here. So moving on to Crystal Palace, who's been the flop of the season? It's the one and only Christian Benteke. With 25 appearances this season and 4 goals and 1 assist, that it hasn't really converted to how good he can be. Christian Benteke was very good at Aston Villa, and when he went to Liverpool, it was not the right move for him, and you could see how that affected him. But then he was given a move to Crystal Palace, and I thought he could really revitalize his career. But he's been strong in this season, and once again, like Brentford, Crystal Palace has had a great year. Yes, they started a bit slow, but they made it to an FA Cup semi-final. The likes of Zaha was 14 goals this season. Jordan Ayew, I believe, with like 8 goals this season. Conor Gallagher with 7 goals, 3 assists, I believe. And Patrick Vieira has done a great job in making sure like they were very competitive this year. But Christian Benteke wasn't part of the plan, and I feel like he's done now. Like he's been struggling. He's not been the Benteke which everyone used to love and remember. And I feel like, what can he do? What can he improve? How can he revitalize himself? I feel like we've given him enough seasons to try to make sure he can revitalize himself and bring him back to the best he was at Aston Villa. But he's clearly not done that at Crystal Palace. So that's why Christian Benteke has been my flop of the season for Crystal Palace. Moving on with Everton, who's been the flop of the season? There's one man who's been the flop of the season for a long time, and he goes by the name of Dele Alli. With 1 goal and 9 starts for Everton, and when they signed him in the January transfer window for a fee of 40 million, he hasn't really done anything to be good. Like with Everton, they've had a pretty ass season there. They've had a lot of bad players, but I feel like Dele Alli's been one of the worst ones in my opinion. I feel like other players could have been close, but Dele Alli is been there. And with Dele Alli, even in his Tottenham days, he's been one of those players who has had so much natural talent, but his hard work has been very bad. And everyone remembers that Tottenham All or Nothing series where Ozan Kaback saying that Dele Alli doesn't train hard enough, he doesn't try hard enough, and that's what's happened at Everton. Everton splashing 40 million at him. Tottenham actually rinsed the bank from Everton. Like Everton are a great team. They have so much money to chuck at the problems, but Dele Alli wasn't the resolution. And you can see this season he's been struggling to get the first 11. And I feel like if he keeps on going the way he is, the Premier League ain't gonna be long enough. I feel like he's too busy just enjoying holidays. I saw pictures of Dele Alli going on holiday to America recently with Jesse Lingard. I'm just thinking, come on, bro, why have we done this season to present you on holiday? Like, you haven't worked hard enough. If I was in the off season, just go hard and try to make sure you get back into the Premier League, because the Premier League will eat you up and chew you up. And I feel like Dele Alli, that's what's happening. So guys, who's been Leeds flop of the year? I feel like there's only one person in mind right now, and it goes by the name of Junior Frop. 13 million signing from Barcelona. I thought he was going to be good this year. He was going to help the Leeds defense, keep them intact. But what has he been more? He's been a walking yellow card. He's putting me in tackles left, right and centre. He's been getting yellow cards after yellow cards after yellow cards after yellow cards. He's been at endless cycles of yellow cards. And did he make Leeds any better? Were they any better from last season? Did they stop conceding any more goals? Yes, when they had the new manager of Jesse Marsh, yes, they did a little better. They got a couple of wins. But it took them until the last game of the season to make sure they maintained safety and make sure they stayed in the league. And Junior Frop wasn't part of the plan. Like, 13 million which Leeds signed for him, he wasn't worth it at all. Like, from Barcelona, I had a bit of certainty. I thought he was going to do well, but with Leeds, I feel like he's been a flop of the season and it's been probably the worst signing for Leeds. So guys, moving on with Leicester, who's been the flop of the season for them this year? There's only been one man in my mind. He goes by the centre-back position. He's a Danish international, and his name is Yannick Westergard. Yannick Westergard has been pretty bad this year. I feel like when Leicester signed him at the end of last season from Southampton, he was going to give him something new, because Callagher Soyuncu was kind of injury prone. Johnny Evans is getting towards the latter end of his career, he's had a very good career, but he can't play the 38 games or the 40 games, the 50 games which they're playing in multiple competitions this year. And I thought Yannick Westergard was the replacement because he's probably proven. What he did for Southampton, he did very well. He didn't concede a lot of goals. They did pretty well last year, and he was good. But when he came into Leicester, can I say the same things? No, he struggled to make it the first team. Fofana came back, some new players came into Leicester, and Yannick Westergard is just basically a bench warmer. And he didn't really have any significant contributions towards the team. So that's why he's the flop of the season for Leicester. So guys, let's go on Liverpool. And who's been the flop of the season for them? It was very, very tough to find a flop of the season for a team who literally came second position with over 90 points. There was only one player which was very tough to find, and his name was Naby Keita. I feel like Naby Keita hasn't really done that much for Liverpool since he's come in. This season, I think he's only registered, I believe, something from more than 20 appearances, and he's not really found himself in the first team. And I feel like Liverpool are willing to go. And I feel like with FSG, for a club and Liverpool, we do so well with transfers. Always find carbon copy replacements. Yes, Sadio Mane is leaving, but they already found in a German Luis Diaz. They already found Darwin Núñez. But I feel like Naby Keita wasn't good business from them. He's kind of struggling in the Premier League. He hasn't really proven a lot, and he hasn't really had a significant contribution towards the team. So that's why he's been my flop of the season. Cool. So guys, let's go with Manchester City. Who's in Manchester City's flop of the season? It was very difficult to find a player, but I went with Zach Stefan, the goalkeeper. Let me explain why. Yes, he hasn't started a lot of games this year, but all the games he started, he's been struggling to save goals. His position is not correct as a goalkeeper, and we all know what happened in the FA Cup semi-final. He lagged for the first goal. For the second goal, he was in the correct position. He got like a glove to it, but he didn't get a good enough palm. And how can he get beaten a near post by Sadio Mane like that? So there could be another Man City players which someone else will agree with, but for me, it's Zach Stefan, and I don't have to explain it a lot. His goalkeeping isn't great. The only reason he plays is that Man City don't really need a second goalkeeper, only for rotation. But if Edison played in the FA Cup semi-final, they could have made it to the final, because in the second half they put pressure on Liverpool, and they scored 2 goals and nearly scored 3 goals at the end, and they won the Champions League. They won the Premier League by a good amount the last day. And I feel like none of the players really can be bad for Manchester City. So that's, guys, who's been Manchester United flop of the season? All the players could be flop of the season in my opinion. Only 2 players weren't bad this season. It's Cristiano Ronaldo and David De Gea. But I'll go with Marcus Rashford. With 25 appearances, only 5 contributions this season. He hasn't been the same. Is he going through something? I don't know. Everyone remembers the game where the ball was just there, just waiting for it, and Marcus Rashford didn't attack it, and that was just the true representation of the club. And so many players could have been here. I wanted to put so many players at the flop of the season, but Marcus Rashford was the most significant one. I feel like all the previous season they've done very well, but I feel like all the Man United players just have this attitude problem which no one wants to address. Everyone pushes it under the rug, blame on all these managers. Yes, Ralf Rangnick didn't get the best out of them, but he tried his best. He exposed the club, and I feel like he knew a lot of things which he didn't want to say about this club, and I feel like he was slapped on the wrist, and magically he had to go full time in his Austria job, and he couldn't work as a consultant as Man United, which in the first place he was given. But Marcus Rashford has been my flop of the season. So guys, let's go on to Newcastle United. Who's been the flop of the season? For me, only has to be one guy, Kieran Clark. I feel like Kieran Clark's been pretty bad for Newcastle this year, only registering 13 appearances. But one thing which has come from Kieran Clark's 13 appearances, that Joe Linton's actually a box-to-box midfielder, because everyone remembers the one game where Kieran Clark got red carded, and guess what? Joe Linton went to the centre mid position, and now we finally found a centre mid position for Joe Linton, that centre mid position where he's so good at going box to box and he understands the game. With Kieran Clark, many Geordie fans know who I'm talking about. Probably a common ball knowledge, Premier League ball knowledge guy wouldn't know who Kieran Clark is. But when I was doing extensive research, through Newcastle United and going through all the different forums, all the Reddit, everyone's saying Kieran Clark, he needs to go. I feel like he's very Steve Bruce era and he's not really into the Eddie Up vision. Moving on to Nora City, who's been the flop of the season. There's one guy, he's a defender and he goes by the name of Ozan Kaback. When Ozan Kaback really signed for Norwich at the start of the season, I thought he was going to actually be what Norwich needed. He had Premier League experience with Liverpool, but then I thought, let's think of Liverpool last year when they had Ozan Kaback and some other guy at centre back. What happened? They were just conceding goals left, right, and centre. And Ozan Kaback has really struggled to make it in the Norwich team. He's had 11 appearances, and in the 11 appearances, given 2 penalties away. So it clearly shows that he was useless and he was non-competent to be in the Premier League. Ozan Kaback, go back to whatever team you came from. I believe it was Schalke was even Schalke for a team which got relegated. Even they said we don't want him. That clearly shows where Ozan Kaback is as a player right now. And I feel like with Norwich, there was a lot of players who didn't play very well this year, and like a lot of players could have been there to blame. It hasn't been a good year, but everyone knows what happens with Norwich is the end of the cycle where they go up to the Premier League, go back to the Championship, come back up to the Premier League, go back to the Championship. But Ozan Kaback, he ain't gonna come back with Nora City back into the Premier League next year. I think he's one and done out here in the Premier League. So guys, let's move on to Southampton, who's been the flop of the season for them this year. And his name is Mohamed El Noussi. Mohamed El Noussi has not been that great for Southampton this year. He did a lot of the Southampton team. Only a bunch of players has actually been pretty decent for Southampton. Mohamed El Noussi, a Norwegian international, who actually had 30 appearances this year for Southampton and has only had 6 contributions from the left wing position. I really thought that Southampton, for a team which are very, very good in most years, last year they overachieved, this year they underachieved, probably next year they'll overachieve, and there will be like this weight distribution graph, it will just like that, which will just be 1 year achieve, next year don't achieve, don't achieve. And El Noussi, I feel like he's not really proved himself. I feel like there's quality in him. I feel like he's not like an Ozan Kaback, which I just spoke about. Like, he's one and down in the Premier League. Oh, yes, 6 contributions, not too bad. But when he had 13 appearances, I expect better. And I feel like James Ward-Prowse has really held the team together because he's got the most goals of any Southampton player, I believe, with 11 goals. And when El Noussi is a player which plays the left wing and James Ward-Prowse plays centre mid, how bad you've done this season. So guys, let's move on to Tottenham. Who's been Tottenham's flop of the season? For me, it has to be Tanganga. Only registering 11 appearances this season, it clearly shows you why he's been the flop of the season. Under Nuno Santos, I feel like Nuno Santos really loved him and got him on loan to, I forgot from what team, to actually play him in the first 11. But everyone remembers that game where he was pretty odd-headed and he got himself a red card in like very quick manner. Ever since Antonio Conte's come in and Tottenham's gone up, he's gone another way. Like it's gone like this. And you can really see that the reason why Tottenham haven't really signed him from his permanent deal from what a loan club he came. And I feel like Tanganga, he does have the potential to be very good in the Premier League. He's very strong, very fast. He has the quality to be a Premier League defender, but this year it hasn't really worked out for Tottenham. That's what, guys, let's move on to Watford. Only one player comes into mind for the flop of the season, and he goes by the name of Ozan Tufan. Actually, a lot of players were flop of the season, but he was the certain royal countryman. Ozan Tufan only registered 7 appearances and 1 assist this season. I feel like a lot of Watford fans, when he signed, they were ready for him and they thought he would do better than he actually was. And like, I feel like he just had this attitude problem where he didn't want to play for the club. So guys, let's go on to the Amas. Who's been the flop of the season for them this season? For me, it has to be Nikola Blasovich. And for a West Ham team who's done pretty well this year, got to the Europa League semi-finals, next year in the Conference League, did pretty well in the Premier League, don't have a lot of squad rotation. I feel like Blasovich has been their flop of the season. Like only having 19 appearances this year and only having 1 goal, he hasn't done well. I feel like Blasovich, when David Moyes signed him, everyone thought he was going to do well, but he's kind of struggled to get into the first team and he's kind of just had a problem. Like, I feel like he's become too comfortable being a bench warmer. Like Yarmolenko had that, but towards the end of the season, he came in clutch for them. But Blasovich hasn't done that in any form. And I feel like with West Ham, they're doing so well that if Blasovich stops performing, they are willing to let him go in the next couple of years. David Moyes has a vision, and I feel like Blasovich wasn't that vision, but he's slowly drifting away from the vision. So if it was Blasovich, try to get yourself back into the first team and make sure you stay a good team West Ham, because I feel like they can achieve a lot. So guys, let's move on to the last team, Wolverhampton Wanderers. Who's been the flop of the season for them? For me, it has to be Fabian Silva. Like, when Portuguese players come to the Premier League, I thought they'd be doing very well. Last season he did pretty okay, but this season he got 22 appearances and 0 goals. And I feel like a lot of Wolverhampton Wanderers fans actually rate him and feel like they think that he's a very crucial part of the team. But when he's a striker and he has had 22 appearances and 0 goals. I love the curly hair he has. He looks like a sexy man, a sexy boy, a sexy man. I feel like in his spare time he gets a lot of girls. In the Premier League, he hasn't really translated. Like, with 22 appearances and 0 goals, I feel like that's not very good. Like, yes, he's very young. He has the potential to do very well the next couple of years, but 22 appearances, and 0 goals is bad. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope everyone enjoyed the video. These are my worst Premier League players from every club for the 2021-22 season. But guys, please like, subscribe, comment, do the usual, and I'll see you later. Peace.